Amelia stared out the window for a long time, expecting that her husband's car would turn into the courtyard. He would park the car carefully, the door would open, and he would get out of the car with a bouquet of her favorite flowers, look with a smile at the only glowing windows in the house, and run up the stairs, not waiting for the elevator to quickly hug his beloved "my wife," have dinner with her, telling her about how the day went, asking about her success. The hands of the clock had already passed more than the first circle, but Amelia did not notice how far time had run away. A baby started crying from the neighbors upstairs. Amelia roused herself and looked at the wall clock. She felt uneasy. It was already 2 o'clock in the morning, and Amelia couldn't understand how she could stand at the window for so long, having fallen so deeply out of reality. Dreams fell apart, and it became clear that it was useless to wait for her husband. Amelia removed the clean dishes from the table, which she was preparing in the hope that this time she would be able to have dinner with her husband because he promised to return on time. But alas, I put everything in the refrigerator that I had been cooking so diligently for most of the evening and went to the bedroom. But it was only when she touched the door handle that she heard an attempt to insert the key into the keyhole of the front door. It was clear from this sound that her husband was unable to control his movements, and Amelia would not be able to sleep now. After several attempts, Harry still opened the door, although it was very difficult for him. Tumbling into the hallway, he threw his briefcase on the floor, kicked off his shoes, throwing them into different corners, and slowly stepping over, holding onto the wall, began to make attempts to move around the apartment. It didn't work out very well. "Amelia!" He wanted apparently to show who was the boss in the house and to be outraged why his wife did not meet him in her arms, but he could not. Slowly rolling down the wall, he lay down on the floor in the hallway and instantly began to snore. Amelia let out a sigh of relief. If he had drunk a little less, she would not be able to stand still like that now, but would already be sitting in some corner, sobbing and hiding her face from objects flying at him. The woman went into the hallway, closed the open door, then brought a pillow, put it under her husband's head, and covered him with a warm blanket. Although the floor was not cold, Amelia worried that her husband would not freeze. She let out another sigh of relief, turned off the light, and went into the bedroom. I couldn't fall asleep right away. The stress affected me. A lot of resources and time were spent on this video. So if you are watching this video, please support me. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Amelia was always afraid when her husband returned drunk. Although this was a common occurrence, she could not get used to it in 4 years. She read women's novels, watched melodramas about beautiful and pure love, and often dreamed that a loving and beloved person was next to her. She built such a relationship in her dreams, in which her husband often gave her flowers, said pleasant words, and took part in household chores. They had dinner together, spent weekends together, and discussed some trifles, but it was always pleasant. The reality was far from an illusory dream, and it was already beginning to seem to Amelia that such men, capable of deeds and romance, and at least basic respect for a woman, simply did not exist in life. She dreamed a little more and fell asleep. A couple of hours later, I was woken up by a rumble in the kitchen and my husband's swearing. Apparently he went in the dark and fell, Amelia thought, and her heart stopped, from sudden awakening, from fright, and from fear of the upcoming brawl. Swearing, the husband threw open the door to the bedroom and immediately began to make claims. And why am I spa-a-al like a dog, in the hallway, on the rug? Couldn't you put your husband to bed like a human being? Amelia knew that it was useless to object, and that Harry would only calm down if she started apologizing and making excuses. But she couldn't apologize for something she wasn't guilty of. The husband did not let up, and everything went according to the usual scenario. What? Is the husband bad? Yes. Have you looked at yourself in the mirror? You're as scary as a goblin. If I hadn't married you, I'd still be an old maid. It's disgusting to look at you, not that—" He grabbed a pillow from the chair and threw it in Amelia's face. "You can only stand like a scarecrow in the garden. No skin, no face. How did I pick you up?" Amelia was crying softly. She did not dare to make a scandal, object, and justify herself. She could only do worse to herself. It was also impossible to cry out loud. Amelia was used to holding back emotions and hiding her resentment deeply, but the soul— she was crying her eyes out. Amelia tried her best to control herself, but Harry would not let up. "Why are you silent? Don't you respect it? Or has she completely lost her fear?" He took a step towards the bed, but at that time the neighbors began to knock on the battery, apparently waking up from the noise. "What do you want? I'm going to arrange it for all of you." He staggered out into the entrance and began to yell and threaten everyone who prevented him from raising his wife. Amelia took advantage of the moment and, rushing out into the corridor, slammed the door. For the first time in her life, she had the courage to do such a desperate thing. She knew that if he came back now, she would not be happy at all. The husband started banging on the door with his fists and yelling. There were voices of outraged neighbors, Gary's scream, but soon everything was quiet. Amelia looked out the window. The neighbor from below led Gary by the arm into the next doorway. His parents lived there, so Amelia was not worried that he would disappear, remaining outside the door. Very quickly, the neighbor returned to his porch, apparently handed Harry over to his relatives. Amelia sat comfortably on the wide windowsill and thought. It couldn't go on like this anymore. Her husband constantly repeated, convinced Amelia that she was scary, no hostess, and that it was not pleasant for people to be with her. They just kept silent, out of respect. Amelia remembered how, as a child, her aunt, coming to visit them, constantly told the neighbors, "Who is our ugly Amelia? It's not clear." The neighbors whispered something in response, and Amelia ran away at those moments and cried bitterly. At school, the girls sometimes talked among themselves about Amelia, scary. Here's the husband. He also constantly offended Amelia with this, and over time she developed a complex. It seemed to her that she was actually not pleasant to people, that everyone considered her a scarecrow, and therefore she had no communication, no girlfriends, no job. Harry forbade her to work or even leave the house unnecessarily. Amelia realized in an instant that everything was over. Her patience had come to an end. Rather than living like this, it was better to be alone. She jumped off the windowsill and began to collect her husband's things and put them in a suitcase. As she was taking his perfumes out of the closet, she noticed her old jewelry box in the corner. Amelia carefully picked it up and, smiling at the memories that came flooding back, timidly opened the lid. A yellowed sheet of paper, neatly folded in a small triangle, immediately touched my eyes. Amelia unfolded it and read, "Amelia, I love you. You are the most beautiful. I will never forget you." This note was written to her in elementary school by a boy who often gave her bouquets of dandelions, treated her to sweets, and rocked her on a swing. But after a couple of years, she and her parents moved to another area, and later, Amelia's parents got a new apartment. This note often saved Amelia from dark thoughts, in childhood, in her youth. That's it now. She clutched an old piece of paper with a child's uneven handwriting to her chest, and it became simple and calm in her soul. When all of Gary's things were packed, Amelia put the suitcase by the door, and as soon as he showed up in the morning, she put him out the door and firmly warned him not to come back here. Yes, who will need you? You're so scary. But you're a fool. You'll bite your elbows. You'll come running. But I won't let you in. Keep in mind, I have a better choice than you. From that moment on, Amelia decided for herself that no matter what, she would start living a full life, and even if no one was around because of her unattractive appearance, she would not worry. For the first time in many years, she bought some cosmetics, went to the hairdresser, got a manicure, and updated her wardrobe, spending all her few savings, which she managed to save in secret from her husband, just for such a case. She opened a job site and started calling. To her surprise and joy, she was assigned an interview at 3 companies, and the very next day, Amelia went to meet a new life. She began to notice the looks of men on her, and it couldn't help but be pleased. And so, Amelia has already visited 2 offices. They asked the same questions everywhere, idly flipped through the documents, and promised to call back. There was still one more meeting with the employer, and the enthusiasm was almost at 0. Amelia did not boldly enter the office after the invitation and sat down on a chair prepared for applicants. She put the documents on the boss's desk and noticed his gaze on her. Amelia felt uneasy. A handsome young man was carefully examining her face, but at that moment, as could be seen from his facial expressions, he was thinking about something of his own. Amelia felt uncomfortable and timidly asked, "Is something wrong?" The man roused himself only now and, apologizing, took Amelia's documents in his hands. He flipped through Amelia's passport and handed her the entire package. "And the diploma, won't you watch it?" The man shook his head negatively. "You are accepted. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock. He was looking at her in a strange, mysterious way or something, and Amelia was uncomfortable with that look. She thanked him and hurried out of the office. She had a job now. It would seem that life was getting better, but still, something was bothering her. His gaze. It caught with its mystery. Amelia returned home with vague feelings. She received a call from the office where the first interview took place and was informed that her candidacy had been accepted for consideration and she needed to undergo another interview tomorrow for a final decision. But Amelia thanked the girl and apologized, saying that she already had a job, although the worm of doubt was still not allowed to calm down. Amelia changed her clothes and sat down on the sofa where the casket lay open. She took out the soothing note again. At that time, the doorbell rang. Probably Harry, though no one else. She opened the door, but a courier was standing on the threshold with a bouquet. Amelia accepted the flowers and was already in the room, putting an unexpected gift in a vase. I found a postcard among the beautiful buds with a fresh smell. She opened it with excitement and read, "Amelia, you have become much more beautiful, and strangely enough, I couldn't forget you." Amelia remembered the look of her new employer and only now realized the reason for his strange behavior. It was him. There was no doubt now, and a year later, her boss, that is, a boy from the distant past, became her lawful husband and the father of their 3 children, whom Amelia gave birth to a year, 5 and 7 years after the wedding. She carefully keeps the saving note, although no one ever called her ugly anymore, but she often heard it now. "You are the most beautiful, my dear." A lot of resources and time were spent on this video. So if you are watching this video, please support me. Please like and subscribe to the channel.